my name is Jason JROCK Houston, and tonight I'm speaking with guitar player Chris Ashlock. And Chris, you're a guitar player from the band Alsatia. I guess that's a great place to start the interview. I was kind of curious about the band's name. Does that mean anything specifically, or is it just a neat name you guys came up with?
Yeah, it's got a bit of history of it, and we're not 100% sure, but most things we've found say that it should be pronounced Alsatia.
Oh, okay.
There may be another way, but that seems like the correct way to pronounce it.
Okay.
The name is actually the name of a sanctuary in England. I think in the 17th or 18th century, it was a sanctuary for criminals or people escaping different kinds of persecution. Unfortunately, there's not really a lot of information out there on it, so we don't know too much about it. But that's kind of most of what you're going to find about it. And I think it's kind of named after the Alsace region of France too.
Oh, okay. Very, very interesting. So this is kind of metal for the thinking man. So that's kind of cool. Now you guys are a power metal band, and you guys are based out of Kansas City. And I was reading on your Facebook page that you were actually in another Kansas power metal band called Vanlade, and I was listening to some of their stuff the other day, and they almost have kind of like a Iron Maiden sound of what they do. Now I was curious, why did you leave that band after only a year and then decide to form this project?
I was actually in there for about 3 years, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was in there from 2007 to 2010, and I left because they were all starting to go in more of the direction that they're in now, and I really wasn't too interested in doing that, so I decided rather than try to make them all, do what I wanted to do, I was just going to strike out on my own. So I got in touch with some other friends from other bands, and hey, you want to make a power metal band? And here we are.
And how hard was that to strike out on your own? I mean, did you have any fears about it, or was it something you really felt comfortable about doing?
I think my worries with it weren't so much that I was going to have a hard time getting a band together. Mm-hmm. It was going to be can you do power metal when we're in the Midwest?
Yeah.
Because, it's not exactly super popular in this part of the country. So that was more of my concern. I never really was afraid that, I wasn't going to find guys to play with or get stuff written.
And so what has been the response to the band, especially in Kansas, where you guys are from, since forming in August of 2010?
It's divided. I'm not sure, because we have people at our shows that seem really enthusiastic about it, and we have some people that, and I could be wrong about this because it's just from my perspective, they kind of look a little perplexed, they're not quite sure what's going on. And again, with keeping in mind that power metal is not very big around here, they may be hearing this kind of music for the first time. So
yeah, I mean, power metal, is real big, of course. In Europe, if you guys got any plans to try to go over there, or do you play just pretty much locally right now?
Well, at the moment, we're kind of stuck here because we're down a drummer.
Oh, okay.
We're trying to get our lineup, filled out again, and then we'll go from there. I'll say that it's in our plans for the future, but we don't have anything
immediately.
It's like the mecca for a power metal band.
And anybody who knows anybody who knows anything about power metal, I mean, I was reading on your Facebook page that one of your influences is Sympathy X. I can definitely hear kind of an influence or a Sympathy X5 kind of going through your music. These are not just simple 1, 2, 3 chords typical AC/DC or something. I mean, power metal is really complex. Usually there's a story to go along with the songs, usually in medieval times. So what's the case with your band? Is that kind of what you guys do?
With the first album, stories as far as each song is concerned.
Yeah.
We've yet to tackle anything bigger like a story album. That's actually an idea we've been throwing around right now since we are writing songs for our second album. But yeah, each of the individual songs is either from some kind of novel or movie we like, or from personal experience too.
And I know a lot of times, a lot of the power metal bands, especially the European ones, there's a lot of theatrics, and a lot of times the band members like are in character, character so to speak. Do you guys kind of go along with that vibe as well?
I would say no, because one of the things I definitely set out to get away from, which is what Vanlade was kind of going more towards, is that whole kind of, blatant, cheesy, fantasy kind of thing, whereas, and I like that kind of thing to an extent,
yeah.
But as far as the music that I play goes, I want it to be a little more on the serious side, I suppose.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of sort of darker fiction or kind of like gothic, gothic horror novels, like the old Victorian English novels, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and
I think we kind of are trying to incorporate more of that vibe, kind of like a band like Camelot does, as opposed to the Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing.
And again, typically power metal acts, it's very complex metal. I mean, music, even in the sense of a songwriting, almost like we're saying in the introduction interview, kind of thinking man's metal, thinking man's music. I mean, there's a lot more in-depth thoughts to your lyrics, I'm sure, than I was with the girl in the backseat of my car. So, like, what do you look for as far as inspiration, like when you're writing your songs?
Well, that's a big question. I kind of try to keep an open ear. I definitely have my bands as far as metal that I'm influenced by, but I might put something in one of our songs that I heard in a pop song or a jazz song, because I listen to quite a bit of different music. If I hear something that is, kind of catchy, or like, hey, how would that fit in the metal context? Sometimes we'll use that.
Oh, okay, cool. And as far as you said you're looking for a new drummer, I was curious what happened with the previous drummer.
Unfortunately with that, it was more of a personal situation, because he was absolutely perfect for us, and there was nothing wrong with his performance or, working with the guy. It just kind of happened that he's moved on in his life, and
I hear you.
It doesn't really, we'll just put it this way, what he's doing now doesn't make good for, he can't really commit to a band full time.
Oh, that's very unfortunate. Now, in looking for a replacement for him, how important is it for you to find, like, are you looking for a guy that can come in and play the songs exactly the way he did, or do you want a guy that can do that and kind of bring his own thing into the band as well?
I think we want a guy that can get pretty close, but we definitely want whoever will eventually take that spot to have their own personality come through in the songs. So, and we're definitely looking for someone that's going to make us, up our game too.
Yeah, and as far as finding a replacement, because I did see you guys are looking for a drummer. You kind of announced that on your Facebook page. Are you holding auditions, people sending tapes to you, or what's the process you're going through for that?
More or less, if anyone messages us or, gets a hold of us somehow, we'll kind of say, hey, what's your background? And if it sounds like there's someone that would fit the part, because, yet again, living in the Midwest, there aren't really many people that are power metal drummers per se. So we kind of have to gauge by their musical background and their ability, and then from there we'll kind of hold auditions. And then
as far as picking that new drummer, being that you're the guy that formed the band, does the final say end with you, or does everybody else in the band have to kind of agree that yeah, we think this is the guy?
It's democracy all the way.
Okay.
I was the one that initiated this band, but it's very important that everyone is on the same page. That so far has proved to be the best, I guess the best way to run things, because if everyone's happy, then, things just work better.
Yeah, and I was curious, being from Kansas City, what is the music scene like there these days?
It's interesting. We kind of have our own little metal clique, I guess, because there's different kinds of metal scenes in the city.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, in our kind of group, we have maybe some thrash metal and a bit of power metal and black metal. And you've kind of got this other clique that's more like the death metal guys. And then you've got this other one that's more the kind of radio rock, metalcore kind of stuff. And none of it really, we don't really congregate much. It's kind of a weird situation.
And did you have trouble finding bands that you guys kind of fit in with, or that you can do shows with?
Yeah, as far as locally goes, we kind of only have our friends bands that we can play with, because there's not a power metal scene per se. It's kind of just who's close enough.
And again, power metal is kind of interesting too, because typically, again, these songs, power metal songs are typically, it could go up to as long as 10-minute songs. So, is it hard to come up with like a set list, like when you guys are performing live? I mean, how many like songs do you guys typically play in one show?
Because most of the time we're in like an opening slot, we typically only get a little bit more than a half hour. We can only play about 5 songs. So it kind of comes down to what do we want to play the most, and, how long is this one versus the other one. And I would love to be able to start playing longer shows so that we can, play more than 5 songs, because we definitely have more than that. But for now, we just kind of have to be super, super selective.
And being that, your playing music is really kind of complex, even in just how you perform it. Like when you're up on stage, are you constantly thinking of, what note comes next? Or, again, because it's not simple music, or are you at the point where, these are your songs, you performed them, I'm sure, a number of times, so there's not too much thinking that goes on with that?
Yeah, all the songs on our first album, we've been playing these songs for like 4 years, and we can do them with our eyes closed. We've played them so much that, and they still are hard to play if you don't play them for a while.
Yeah.
We really are so familiar with the stuff we have right now, it's pretty easy to, I'll say that I'm not up there worried about what comes next.
Yeah,
and typically we try to just have fun when we play live, so with the new stuff, though, we'll see.
That's cool. So I guess you guys are ready to start, getting some new stuff laid down. So is there a new full-length album on the way, or in the works?
I'll say it's in the works. We're kind of in the demo stages right now, and again, because we're out of drummer, there's really only so much we can do with
without a drummer.
Just very drum programming and stuff, and we're in the very early stages.
Yeah, because, Chris, you're talking to a guy that's not a musician or anything. I know nothing about music except that I, enjoy listening to. But I understand, a lot of musicians tell me people typically think, that when you write stuff, it typically starts with the guitar riff. But from my understanding, people tell me, it typically starts with, the drums, and everything is centered around the drums. Is that correct?
No. Not with us, anyway.
Oh, okay.
I kind of try to write stuff with maybe guitar in mind, or keyboards. I try to think of stuff more as what's the vocal melody going to be, or what's the hook of the song going to be, what's the catchy part going to be. And sometimes I write around that. So
yeah, see, one thing I dig about bands like you guys is the fact that you do have keyboards in your music, because a lot of rock fans, metal heads, they typically like, keyboards don't belong in music, but I always love bands that have keyboards for a simple fact. I mean, even you look at a band like Deep Purple. I mean, John Lord. He he's a legendary keyboard player, and those he played as hard as anybody. But I definitely love music that has keyboards, because even a power metal band like you guys, you show that there's really there's a place for keyboards in music.
Yeah, well, first off, I'm a huge Deep Purple fan,
Yeah.
so that's cool. And keyboards, I think, I kind of grew up with, I don't know, more keyboard-oriented bands.
Yeah.
Like Children of Bodom, that was one of the first one I got into. So most of the stuff I was exposed to early on was this keyboard-driven metal from like Scandinavia.
Yeah.
Keyboards are great because they add this new dimension to it. You can do, you can build an atmosphere. You can have kind of a cool lead sound. There's so much, so many different things you can do with keyboards that kind of transcends that just, drum and bass driven kind of rock.
Yeah, and typically people think of keyboard, they think maybe like Elton John or Billy Joel, or more popular type of music. But I think there's definitely a place for keyboards in all forms of music.
Yeah, definitely. There is a way not to do it.
Yeah.
That too, but yeah, they have their place.
And as we were talking earlier, you have a lead guitar player in the band, so I'd like to ask you now a little bit about how were you when you first started playing the guitar, and what was it about the guitar that you picked that as your instrument of choice?
I want to say I started playing when I was 10. I was put into lessons for like finger-style classical guitar, I guess, but I didn't really stick with it because, I don't know, I was young and my attention was elsewhere. And it wasn't really until I was about 14 or so that I kind of started to get back into it, and that's when I got my first electric guitar.
Oh, wow,
Okay. I'll never forget the first time I was at a friend of mine's house, and he had an electric guitar. It was the first time I ever picked up an electric guitar plugged into an amp, and all I did was just hit open strings, and for some reason the sound of the electric guitar through the amp it was like, this is awesome.
Wow.
I don't know what it was about it. It's that stack of Marshall amps kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah.
There's something so cool about it. So from then on, that was that.
Oh, that's cool. And do you remember what the first song was you learned how to play it?
Oh man, probably one of the typical ones. Smoke on the Water, Crazy Train, some cool riff.
Yeah. Okay, and I think you touched on this a little bit, but as far as guitar players, who would you say were your main influences?
Okay, yeah. My top 5, I guess, would be Richie Blackmore, Gary Moore, Paul Gilbert.
Paul Gilbert. Wow. Okay.
A Japanese guitar player named Shu.
Okay.
He's in a band called Galnerius, who coincidentally we took our band name from.
Oh, okay.
And then my number 1, probably Alexi from Children of Bodom, because he's the guy that made me, take guitar more seriously.
Yeah, well, wow, those are all great influences. I'd like to talk to you too a little bit about when the top guy on your list was Richie Blackmore. He's one of my all-time favorites. Of course, everybody knows him from Deep Purple and Rainbow. But I was curious if you had a chance to check out what he's doing now with his band Blackmore's Night.
Yeah, I love Blackmore's Night. They're awesome.
And, the cool thing I got to tell you about what I do about doing these interviews and stuff. I have people, I've publicists and record companies send me, CDs and stuff to review, and I'm of course a Deep Purple and Rainbow fan, and I'd heard stuff about stuff Richie's doing now is classical music, and I like a lot of people, I never thought about checking out, but somebody sent me one of his Blackmore Night CDs. I reviewed it, and I was pleasantly surprised because it came along with like it was a DVD, one of these live DVD shows, and a CD with it, and I put on the DVD first, and it was really theatrical, and his wife is in the band with him, and it's nothing like Deep Purple or Rainbow, but at the same time, I was just in awe, and I was pleasantly surprised I went into it thinking like, this is nothing like Deep Purple, but I think if people would open their minds a little more and listen to stuff like that, they would see that there's other types of music out there that's just as good as what he used to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing too that I've found listening to it, because a lot of their albums, they kind of do this thing where some of the songs are just straight traditional,
yeah,
and some of them have kind of more of a rock kick to it.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's abandoned rock completely. The other thing too is if you go back and listen to like some Rainbow records, for example, you can kind of hear that there's a bit of that in Rainbow that you can hear in Blackmore's Night. So it's not such a
departure. Yeah.
It's not such a stretch.
Yeah, and the thing about it, is I'd say Blackmore's Night is got a little more of a popular element because of his wife's voice in that. But she's a great singer in her own right, and I think they're doing something. Well, it's not what you maybe expect from Richie. It's definitely worth checking out, and I think more people they'd be pleasantly surprised, like I said. So it's just amazing a guy like that is still doing it after all these years. Yeah, and so I want to ask you about, as far as your songwriting, does everybody typically get involved with the songwriting, or is that pretty much your game?
Everyone's involved. I would say that myself and Tim, the other guitar player, we kind of we write the bulk of the stuff, or I guess we initiate the songs. But I mean, everyone hears them, everyone contributes. And no song that's been written by either of us has, come out unchanged.
And
everyone's work is on them.
Yeah,
I think they're better for it.
And again, a lot of these songs are kind of like story driven, like we were saying. So when you start writing a song, does it typically start, like we were saying, with a riff, or do you usually write the lyrics before the music?
The lyrics always come last. Oh. I don't even think about words so much as I think of vocal melodies when I'm writing music.
Okay.
Yeah, typically it's just a riff or a melody idea, and I work around that, and then we fit the lyrics in somehow at the end of it.
Okay. And as far as recording, I was kind of curious. Like when you guys recorded your first album, was everybody in the same studio, same room, recording kind of like old school way as a live band, or does everybody kind of record their parts separately and then you kind of piece the whole thing together?
We did everything separately and pieced it together over a very long year.
And so, like when you guys are, like when you're making your debut album, for example, since everybody's recording their parts separately in that, I imagine you all have your own studios in that at home. Do you guys see much of each other when you're, during the recording of, an album?
Well, our recording studio is actually in our rehearsal space.
Okay.
So we did everything in the same spot that we practice all the time. And typically, it would be me and, like, Jason, our bassist. He's the one that recorded us. It's his studio, technically.
Okay.
So at any given point, he's always there with whoever's being recorded, and then I think I was kind of there for some of the keyword parts and vocals and stuff like that. So we do see each other, just not all the time.
And so that being the case, like when you guys, are doing a lot of shows or touring, what's that like to get together and see each other? That must be a lot of fun.
Sorry, what was the question?
Well, like we were talking, kind of like, typically back when I guess you and I were growing up, bands would be in the studios together. They'd all be in the same room and everything, and that's not really how it's done these days. So, do you enjoy that much more when you guys have live shows and you get together or just going to practice and seeing each other?
Oh yeah, man. I'm a total live player. I enjoy the studio process, but my thing is playing in front of people with my bandmates and my friends. So yeah, we definitely we like that more.
And I imagine the live show of when you guys are up there on stage, back that's kind of your playground, if you will, where there are no rules. I mean, I imagine when you hit the stage that you're not necessarily playing the songs note for note, or you might do an extended version, or a 10-minute jam or whatever. It's not on the record.
Yeah, I mean, because we don't have an actual keyboard player, all the keyboards and programming strings are on a backing track. So when we go up there, it's more or less as it is done on the record. We don't really stray away from that at all.
And is there a reason you guys don't have like a live keyboard player, or you just is it better for you to just have it all programmed?
I think we decided because we did have a keyboard player a few years ago, and when we let him go, we kind of decided that we didn't want to bring anyone else in that would potentially influence the sound.
Okay.
Because we're pretty content with what we have with each other, knowing each other and how we write songs and all that. So we figured, let's just put it on a backing track. Lots of other bands are doing it, and they seem to be getting away with it. So why not?
Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed talking to you, Chris, and I could talk to you all night, but I know you're very busy and you're a few hours ahead of ahead of me here in Los Angeles. So before we end this, is there anything else you'd like to say to all your fans out there?
Yeah, if anyone wants to go check out our album, you can get that at our Bandcamp page. That's alsatiakc.bandcamp.com. We'd also appreciate it if you went to our Facebook page and gave us a like. That's facebook.com/alsatiakc.
Oh, okay.
And hope to talk to you guys soon. Cheers.
Okay, and the last thing I did want to ask you, I was just noticing that you guys, it says you're unsigned, is the plan when you get a new album recorded, are you going to try to, is the plan to release it yourself like you did with the first album, or are you going to try to get signed to a label?
I guess both. I'm not sure for now. We definitely would like to get on the label, because that's probably going to be the best way for us to get over to Europe and other territories.
Okay.
But I think we're definitely going to push for a label.
Okay, well, best of luck with that, and do me a favor, Chris, and keep in touch, and when the new album's ready to drop, please get in touch with me when we do this again. I've really enjoyed talking to you, so best of luck with you and the band and everything you guys got going on, and good luck finding your new drummer. So please take care of yourself, my friend, and I'll be in touch.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Okay, bye-bye.